Were you able to wake up and breathe clean air this morning? You probably have always taken that for granted, but there are many people in places around the world that don't have that luxury. People who live in places that are almost completely uninhabitable because pollution has destroyed them. The following places are going to make you a lot more appreciative of where you live right now. Here are 10 places pollution completely destroyed. Number 10 is Yamuna River. In March of 2017, the police department in Agra, a city in northern India, received a call that an attempted murder had taken place. When asked who the victim was, the caller identified them as the Yamuna River. It turns out just days before, a high court in the country declared that the river was a living entity, but the unbelievable amount of pollution within it was enough for it to be declared almost dead. Research has shown that nearly 60% of the waste accumulated in Delhi, India's capital territory, was dumped into the Yamuna River, where almost all of the local residents get their drinking water from. Ironically, back in the 16th century, Babur, the first Mughal emperor, declared that water tasted better than nectar. It's very far from being that tasty today. Number 9 is Pont des Arts Bridge. Located in Paris, France, the Pont des Arts is a pedestrian bridge that connects the Louvre with the River Seine's southern bank. For many years, a tradition has been in place where couples come to the bridge and attach a padlock or combination lock to the side of its railings as a symbol of their undying love for one another. But while one lock might not be too heavy, tens of thousands certainly are. Regardless of how it started, the romantic tradition eventually became a hazard, as the weight of the locks surpassed 45 tons. The strain on the bridge led to railings bending and breaking, which caused the Paris government to step in. After requests to stop the tradition fell on deaf ears, they had all of the railings, locks included, removed and replaced with more solid walls, covered in, of course, lock-themed graffiti. Number 8 is the Mombasa River. When your basement floods, it's a huge inconvenience. But imagine if the water brought with it toxic substances and even piles of trash. That's the kind of inconvenience that plagues those who live along or near the Mombasa River in Tanzania, which has basically become the means of garbage disposal over the last several years. When the rain season hits, people have to put up with floodwaters entering their homes, bringing with it the waste that they and their neighbors recently threw away, along with disease-causing bacteria, which has many in the area stricken with various illnesses. What's worse is the rising population has led to even more garbage accumulating, and a larger strain on the limited and still polluted drinking water that's available. Number 7 is the Pacific Trash Vortex. When it comes to pollution in the sea, few stories are as gripping as the floating trash island that's apparently navigating the waves in the Pacific Ocean while gathering up more and more garbage to add to its mass. A mass which has already surpassed the size of Texas twice. A massive problem in the North Pacific. Dubbed the Pacific Trash Vortex, the pollution in this area, which includes microscopic toxins, dangerous chemicals, and non-dissolving plastics, is trapped there due to the rotating currents. The marine life in the region has been severely affected, with many species mistaking certain pollutants as food, while others simply come into contact with contaminants. Number 6 is the Dampier Rock Art Complex. Stretching from northwestern Australia into the Indian Ocean, the Dampier Rock Art Complex is made up of 2,500 archaeological sites containing over 1 million engravings that date back over 10,000 years. This incredible place is full of cultural records, which many believe include those of the first human beings to ever settle in the area. However, this historically significant collection is being threatened from multiple sources, including industrial expansion and greenhouse gases. Already, it's estimated that 20% of the drawings have been permanently destroyed by dust and debris caused by construction, in addition to damage from acid rain caused by pollutants those facilities are putting into the air. So much of history has been lost, and if nothing more is done, a lot more to follow. Number 5 is the Rio Basin. Every single individual on Earth deserves clean water to drink and bathe in. But when 3.5 million people live around a water source, you'd expect it to be respected and kept clean, right? Unfortunately, that's not the case in Argentina, where the banks of the Rio Basin house thousands of factories and around 42 garbage dumps. It's estimated that the water that flows into the basin contains the runoff from nearly 15,000 industries and around 60% of the 20,000 people who live in the area. These people live in zones that have been deemed unsuitable for human habitation. Respiratory illnesses, cancers, and other diseases have devastated the population. Though cleanup efforts were announced, government corruption and the misappropriation of funds have brought them to a standstill. Number 4 is the Kak Lake. What was once the biggest and most essential urban wetland in Cambodia, the Kak Lake was a popular tourist destination where visitors could fish, swim, or even just watch the beautiful sunsets that it offered. That is, until pollution became an issue, and then the federal government stepped in and accepted money in return for its destruction. In the early 90s, as lakeside living became popular, the waters became a dumping ground for people's garbage. But rather than clean it up, in February of 2007, a lease agreement to the tune of $79 million was reached between Cambodian officials and the construction company that wanted to build a city center that they promised would be known as the Pearl of Cambodia. Gradually, the company filled the water with sand, and it's little more than a puddle today. Number 3 is Lake Karachay. Located in the southern Ural Mountains in eastern Russia, Lake Karachay used to be a beautiful place for a number of creatures, until it suddenly became a dumping ground for, of all of things, nuclear waste. In the late 1940s, Mayak, one of Russia's biggest nuclear weapons factories, was built and began secretly dumping its waste in the water until it was declassified in 1990. So many accidental and deliberate nuclear waste disposals have occurred in Lake Karachay that experts at the World Watch Institute in Washington, D.C. have declared it to be the most polluted spot on the planet. The waters are so radioactive that a person can get a lethal dose of poison by spending less than 30 minutes waiting in them without protection. Definitely not somewhere that you'd like to take a dip. Number 2 is the Great Barrier Reef. As one of the 7 wonders of the world, you'd think the Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Australia would be better protected, but this colossal habitat has been devastated by overfishing, pollution, and the new predators drawn to it. The reef is so massive and complex that there are species of plants and animals that science is yet to discover hiding in its depths. But while it should be growing and thriving, it's shrinking and it's rapidly being overrun. Farm pollution is a key issue, as nitrogen runoff not only damages coral, making it more susceptible to bleaching, but creates a perfect haven for thorn starfish and other larvae to flourish, promoting their populations to spike. Starfish are deadly when it comes to the creatures living in the Great Barrier Reef, and if something isn't done, it won't be so great anymore. And number 1 is Earth's orbit. Who would have thought the most polluted place human beings are responsible for might not be on planet Earth at all, but instead floating around it? Referred to as space junk or space debris, the garbage floating around in the Earth's orbit includes old satellites, spent rockets, and even frozen coolant. On July 5th, 2016, United States Strategic Command revealed that they were tracking over 17,852 artificial objects orbiting our planet, and that's just the stuff that we can track. A number of artifacts are too small to be located, but it's estimated that they number in the hundreds of millions. This has created an issue for operating satellites and space travel, as the space trash has a habit of crashing into things that pass by. There's very little that can currently be done, other than trying to protect spacefaring objects and astronauts from litter.